Lake,
Oh yeah.
beach TNF in the done on Matthew Wedner.
Oh yeah.
This was what we had hunted for 30
Oh
years,
yeah.
about 30 years
Oh my
ago.
gosh, yeah.
Didn't much a week eated Necamo,
Yeah.
done our Wednock's old canoe. And one day, Betty, something you see my that was a muggle now when Dick Dole what? This looked whisk.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh my
Bill
god.
A. Youngman.
Oh jeez.
From Blanket
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And yeah, Dion yeah. Come to do light one. Oh, do light one then.
Oh yeah.
All right. Got them yeah. No one $15. Oh no, I'll go in bed out though. Tell him what will be
Oh yeah.
No yeah. No light one. One day I was a busy car with that old canoe.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and put it right down there. Spent my $15.
Yeah.
And Peggy and dot.
Yeah.
En we lang de light on, dan moet je light on. En als je het dan naar je gokskoos, moet je gaan en niet Peter.
Oh yeah.
Als je het dan naar je gokskoos orthodox.
Yeah.
Moet je gaan en niet genoeg. Gezicht gaan. Op zijn gezicht gaan. En dan ga je kiss on ribs. Dan ga je gezicht aan hè. Dan ga je gunwales, all on.
Yeah.
Je mag scannen hè. Gezicht on ribs. Planking. Met je 25 years in Delaware.
Oh wow.
It didn't even begin as a search for a new career or a livelihood. I just wanted to do it. For me, it was more of a spiritual journey to be able to make a canoe, you know, a birchbark canoe with cedar and roots from the forest. When I take it back to the community and give it back to the community, the first thing I tell them is like, this work isn't mine. This is the ancestors' work. I didn't invent any of this. I'm just doing what they already did. They figured it out 3,000 years ago, and it's perfect.
Once I got myself into the woods and started looking for materials, I realized that these individuals were very tuned in with their environment. And it's what you have to be when you're working with natural materials, when you're gathering natural materials. You have to be really tuned into the environment that you're in, because there's plenty of bad material out there, material that's not suitable for a fine canoe. But there's also plenty of superior materials. You just have to know the difference.
Well, it's about, I figure, 500 hours, you know, depending on, so it depends on how many people are working on it, but there's, you know, if there's learning involved too, that takes time. But when I'm building by myself, I usually do the woodwork in the wintertime, and then do the bark work and the assembly in the warm weather.
I'm carving with a curved knife. You hold it in your hand like so, put the thumb up here for leverage. And right now I'm trying to angle off spots to where how thin I'm gonna get it. And I'm not the best with it yet, because I just started using it yesterday. But you want to take nice long strips like that off, or longer if you're more skilled.
No. Oh, she knows.
Right now I'm just trying to make a smooth base for a flat side of the rib.
So you can use either this or the crooked knife.
Yep. This is good. This is quick. But if you have a thin piece, you generally don't want to use this because it takes a lot off at the beginning. But since this is a thick piece, I can safely get away with doing this. At least I think.
So I'm bringing it down to, these are my bevel marks on either side, and I'm bringing it down to that, and that will be my thickness.
What you doing?
To give the top a little bit of a round to it, kind of crown it across. So I'm just going to take a little bit off each corner and then smooth those bevels off so they're rounded.
Why you use the ruler?
I was checking for flatness, putting it across the rib to see if there was any round to it. First we make them flat on both sides so that the thickness is consistent all the way through.
Yep, I'm just smoothing up the back side, and I'm hollowing out the middle so it has a little bit of a cup to it.
Okay.
So that when it sits against the planking, it sits flat and it doesn't rock back and forth. Taking a little chunks out of the middle.
Every inch of length from 60 inches to 48 inches has a group of ribs. And that way they have a consistent taper at the ends for the finished length of the rib, which will be cut to length just before they're put in the canoe. These ribs are now all made a few inches long so that they can be fitted to the bark. Okay, this is the center thwart for the canoe, the center crossbar that goes across at the widest point. These square ends will be inserted into slots in the gunnels called mortises, and these are the tendons that fit in, making a mortise and tendon joint. Will then be pegged through the tendon and the mortise to hold it in place. Yeah, we're going to have to tie it, I guess, before those make contact anyway. Yeah, it's because canoes don't have necessarily any order.
Oh yeah, they do. We try paddling.
Well, yeah, at least the rub's right.
We are going to find center lines here because what we're doing now is we're cutting these ends, these half arrowhead ends. So the idea is to get it so that it's not racked in either way. And you do that by sliding these one way or the other. And when it's on all of its center lines, on all of its thwarts, that's the line you want up here. And then we're going to run a line from that corner right there to this corner, which is under the clamp right now, and we'll cut that with a saw, and then we lay that over the top of the other one. In fact, we can do that now, and then we lay that over the top of the other one and use that to mark the other one, and then they should come together in like a half arrowhead. So.
I always thought those were roots that were...
Yeah, they will be. This is just a temporary lashing until it's dry.
So did you put any glue between them or anything?
No, we're gonna take them all apart again and cut the mortises after they're dry, and then mortise the rest of the forks in, peg them, peg this, and lash with spruce roots.
We're raising the shear to the height that it's going to be in the finished canoe. In other words, when you look at the canoe or any canoe, you see that it has a sweep of the shear. The shear is the definition of the top line of the rail. So we're putting a pre-bend in this so that when we put it in the canoe and we start our lashings, that it, because wood, when you stretch wood like this, it retains a memory. So we're putting the idea that this is the shape that the wood is going to remain in forever, for the existence of the canoe. And when we put it in the canoe and we try to pull it up into this shape, it's not going to be the first time that it's been in that shape. So it will go into place a lot easier. Around June 15th, sometimes just a little bit later, depending on the year. Then I can peel the canoe, a tree for a canoe. I will have scouted that tree in April. I'll see a tree, test the bark. I like the thickness, I like the strength, I like the length and the straightness of the tree, and everything looks suitable. I'll mark that tree in my mind, and I'll go back to it in June when it's in summer bark. At that time it will peel very easy. Winter bark clings to the tree, and it clings to the inner bark. And when you peel it, it brings off a thin rind of that inner bark. That's what dries to a dark brown, and that's what you scratch away when you're etching. Summer bark, once you make a cut in that, it just, you'll hear it, it just lets go. It wants to be released because it's very tightly wound around that tree. And it'll just peel right off. Sometimes I actually have to tie ropes around the bark so it doesn't peel itself, and to keep it from dropping, because I have to keep that piece straight. Say if I want to say I'm building an 18-foot canoe, I need a 19-foot sheet of bark. I need a foot more than the canoe I'm building. So 14-footer, I need 15 feet. So I'll look at those trees, and if I can get 19 feet of clear length, that's going to be an 18-foot canoe.
Well, we staked up the bark. It's held with a series of inner and outer stakes and battens inside and out to hold the sides up vertically. So we're making kind of a box shape out of it right now. And that'll later be shaped into the round canoe shape by the ribs. But this is the way to lay out the bark and shape the bottom. And the gores were cutting the sides so that the sides would come up flat.
Now these are the gores?
Yeah.
The cuts?
Yeah, and this one was cut afterwards because there was a pucker in the bark.
Yeah.
Most of them were cut before, but you can't always tell what the bark's going to do until you fold it up. Yeah. So sometimes you have to cut them as you go.
Can you tell me what they're doing right now?
They're sewing the side panels on the canoe to raise the sides of the bark to the level where the gunnels will be. And the stitch they're using is called a batten stitch because it has a root batten that runs the length of the stitch horizontally. And the stitches go across that so that they won't rip through, since the stitches are in line with the grain of the bark. But with that batten in there, you can pull the stitches very tight, and it makes a very strong seam for that horizontal seam. And that batten is just made from a split piece of root that's been stretched and dried. There's some over here. They're just tacked to a board to dry. That way they'll stay straight, and also they'll shrink before they're used so that the seam will stay tight and won't shrink under the stitches.
We're going to raise the inwales on the boat. taking all the weight out, taking all the boards out, and we're going to raise this in whale, this piece right over the main structural piece, the in whale, this piece right here, and we're going to raise it to the shear height, and we're going to peg it in place, and we're going to get ready to do the gunnel lashings. And that's what we're going to be doing the majority of the week, just working on gunnel lashings.
The bark had to be weighted flat. You can see it's dried flat.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any significant puckers or bumps in it now.
So, but when you put the ribs in, that's going to give it the curvature.